Okay, so here we are. Summer is here, the world is in bloom, and gravity is pulling cars uphill instead of down. Good stuff. So yeah, there's a hill in Greenfield that makes cars roll uphill when they're just sitting there in neutral. It's a whole lot of fun, and I recorded the phenomenon myself. But first, let's talk about the fact that you've heard about this sort of thing before. Here are some famous examples. Lake Wales, Florida. One of the best known gravity or magnetic hills you can hear about is the spot called Spook Hill in Florida. There are a few different stories, but the locals take it very seriously, and one of them is printed on a giant sign. The other story is that after years of pillaging and plundering on the high seas, two pirates, Teniente Vanilla and Captain Give Me Sarsaparilla, decided to retire to Lake Wales. When Vanilla died, he was buried at the foot of Spook Hill, and Captain Sarsaparilla ended up at the bottom of the pond bearing the name Lake Wales. Then, quote, centuries later, a man parked his car at the bottom of Spook Hill so he could go fishing. As he headed toward the lake, he glanced back at his vehicle and it was traveling backward uphill even though he did not leave the motor running. As the story goes, the man cries out, "Dem spooks," before he fainted. That's how Spook Hill acquired its name. Yeah, you heard that right, by the way. The pirate's name is Gimme Sarsaparilla, so I'm not sure I can attest to the accuracy of this version. Prosser, Washington. Then there's Gravity Hill in Prosser. This one is cool for two reasons. One is that it has a sweet start line so you know where it is. The second is that it has one of the more common folklore elements attached to it. That's the story where if you dust the back of your car with flour after you get pushed up the hill, you'll see child-sized handprints. According to their flavor of the legend, quote, the nearby gray barn at the crest of the hill is haunted by several young girls who met a brutal end, and it's their handprints you can see on the back of cars, unquote. Ayrshire, Scotland. Then there's a Gravity Hill in the made-up country of Scotland. It's a place called Electric Bray in Ayrshire where, if you park at the bottom of the hill, well, you can guess what happens. The supposed reason for this one is either a chain of magnets buried under the road or witches. You can decide which explanation is right for you. Trust me when I say I could keep going. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of these locations around the world. In fact, just take a look at the page Wikipedia has dedicated to them. Did you know there's a place called Salalah in Oman? Did you know there was an Oman? Well, there's a Gravity Hill there too. Greenfield, Massachusetts. So that brings us to Greenfield. The area was originally settled by colonists in 1686, but its history goes back much farther than that. In fact, Native American artifacts from the area have been dated all the way back to 9000 BCE. Do you realize how old that is? The pyramids of Giza started getting built in 2550 BCE. Those pyramids were ancient when the Roman Empire was new. Hell, civilization didn't even really start until 4000 BCE. No one even thought about building a house in the Americas until 1200 BCE. So when someone tells you that something is ancient, you have the right to scoff in their stupid face and point to Greenfield. That's what old looks like. So the name of those Native Americans who were Greenfield before Greenfield was cool were the Pocumtuck. This group planted crops and fished in the river and basically just chillaxed. But that was only until the English showed up in the 1600s. There are two variations on the story of why the Pocumtuck disappeared. One is that the Mohawk came to town and wiped them out. That's a possibility because the Mohawk walked right on through the area on the reg. They used the trail through Greenfield to walk in from the New York State area and trade with the New England natives. They use the trail so often that it's still around. It's called the Mohawk Trail, and its history is fascinating. It's also most of Route 2 in western Massachusetts. The other possibility is that the Pocumtuck hooked up with Metacomet and the Wampanoag to put the hurt on the white man during King Philip's War. I've talked about that whole thing at length at slightlyodfitchburg.com, and I'll leave a link below. Don't worry, there's no paywall or anything gross like that. It's just the blog version of this channel. Anyway, one hard fact is that the tribe played a big part in the Battle of Great Falls in 1676. The result was a whole damn lot of them fleeing and becoming part of the Abenaki and Mohican tribes. That left the area of Greenfield uninhabited and ready for those filthy colonists to come in and make it part of Deerfield. Then, almost 100 years later in 1753, it took its name from the Green River and broke off from Deerfield to become Greenfield. Even more than, a few hundred years after that, someone with a broken spinal cord would sit at a microphone and read those words about that same land that's been inhabited since mastodons still roam the earth. History is fun. Okay, so that's a quick version of the long history of the town, but we're here for the mystery, damn it. Some people call it Magnetic Hill and some call it Gravity Hill. What doesn't change is the place itself. Coincidentally, it's also been reported that strange things are afoot at the Circle K. Anyway, it's right on Shelburne Road, and all you have to do is find the spot going east, right under Mohawk Trail Road. Yes, the same Mohawk Trail as before, only now it's a bridge. You can get there by taking exit 26 off I-91 going west on Route 2 and taking a right onto Coleraine Road. From there, take a left onto Shelburne Road, go under the Mohawk Bridge, bang one of them U-turns, and you're there. By the way, that is the most New England set of directions you're ever going to hear in your life. That's how we got places before Google Maps. Now it's just a matter of putting your ride into neutral and waiting for the magic to happen. And just keep in mind that this is a public road and you're going to be sitting in the middle of it in neutral like a jackass. Definitely don't do it when there's any traffic around. Luckily, if you go late enough at night, it's pretty deserted, so you should be okay. That's exactly what we did. Oh, and this is a pretty good landmark to seek it out. Anyway, this is the real outcome of sitting at the bottom of the hill in neutral, and you might be surprised at the results. You also might not be surprised, so I made it kind of funny. So there you have it. Gravity Hill is an actual thing that actually works. Now the question is why. It's not difficult to find out how these gravity hills work. What's unexpected is just how much they mess with your mind. I was convinced that something with momentum was going on. If you look at the hill from the starting point, it kind of makes you think that you're going downhill just a little bit, then uphill. I really believe that we were simply going downhill and picking up momentum that brought us up and over the crest. That's not the case though. The car, even though it really looked like it was going uphill, was simply going downhill the entire time. I brought a sawdust covered level to check it out, just to be as scientific as possible about the whole thing. Here it is at the top of the hill. Now here it is at the bottom of the hill. Yep, drink it in with your eyes. The whole gravity hill or magnetic hill or however you think of it is a total downslope. That's what it's all about. It's a road that makes you think you're going uphill and messes with your brain to give you an experience that you just don't have every day. You should really check it out for yourself. It's a lot of fun to put your car in neutral and just sit there while it falls uphill. In fact, bring some friends and make a night of it. Just make sure you're not blocking traffic and you'll be good. You're usually out of the way and you're just having some good, clean, mind-altering fun, and you don't have to pay those big city illicit drug prices. Oh, and when it comes to gravity hills with handprints from ghosts, that's a big old debunk. It turns out that sprinkling flour on your trunk will also show you the oil you're leaving behind from your own hands every time you touch that part of your car. It's just 5 years worth of fingerprints from loading your groceries. Sorry. Hey, thanks for listening. If you like odd and haunted history, please subscribe to Slightly Odd America on YouTube and like and follow Slightly Odd America on the podcast app of your choice. You can also join in on the fun by following us at facebook.com/thenewslightlyOddFitchburg. We're always asking for story suggestions and sharing updates on what's coming next. You can also help support this whole thing by buying your very own copy of Slightly Odd Fitchburg, The Odd and Haunted History of Central Massachusetts. It's filled with New England folklore and stories that we've been researching for years, and you can get it in paperback, digital print, and even as an audiobook. You can find links to everything in the description as well as on slightlyOddFitchburg.com. That's also where we have handmade, custom-built Ouija boards and super fun t-shirts. There are many more stories to share, so until next time, keep being odd and proud.